As the fervor for the FIFA World Cup is heating up as we head into the round of 16 matches, there is a big question to ask. Where is China? Korea competed in the group stages and Japan made it to the round of 32. Both nations are both smaller, less wealthy, and less powerful than China. But Korea has qualified 11 times consistently since 1986, while Japan has qualified 8 times consistently since 1998. But China has only ever qualified once in 2002, and that was only because the tournament was held in Japan and Korea, giving Asia 4 total tickets to the tournament. But at the tournament, China lost all their games and scored a whopping 0 goals. Even now that FIFA has expanded the tournament size to 48 teams, giving China their best chance of qualifying ever, they still couldn't do it. FIFA is even considering expanding the tournament to 64 teams by 2030, giving China an even better chance. But whether they can do it remains to be seen. But why is that? Plainly, why does China suck at football? The year is 2016. China has a plan, not a 5-year plan, a 50-year plan. President Xi Jinping has 3 goals. Make China a football-playing nation, make China a football-loving nation, make China a world football power by 2050. He is serious. The government is serious. What follows is one of the most expensive sporting experiments in human history. China spends over $1 billion importing the world's best players. It builds hundreds of new stadiums. It hires World Cup winning coaches. It launches a national program to teach football in 40,000 schools. 10 years later, China's national team ranks 88th in the world. Below Kyrgyzstan, below Tajikistan, below countries most people cannot locate on a map. The question is not whether the money was well spent. It clearly wasn't. The question is why it bought almost nothing. Football in China has always been a complicated subject. The sport arrived in the late 19th century, brought by British sailors and merchants to port cities like Shanghai and Tianjin. For decades, it was genuinely popular. In the 1930s, China sent a team to the Berlin Olympics. The country had clubs, stadiums, and real football culture in its major cities. Then came decades of political upheaval. The Cultural Revolution treated competitive sport with suspicion. Organized football fell apart. When China reopened to the world in the 1980s, the sport had to be rebuilt almost from scratch. The national team qualified for its first and only World Cup in 2002. It was the year South Korea and Japan co-hosted. Most of Asia's traditional powers were automatically qualified as hosts. China got through, they lost all 3 games, scored 0 goals. Still, the potential seemed obvious. 1.4 billion people. A government that could mobilize resources at a scale no other country could match. A rising middle class with money and time to spend on entertainment. All the ingredients looked right. None of the ingredients were the ones that actually matter. When Xi Jinping announced China's football ambitions in 2015, money moved fast. Chinese Super League clubs began spending at a pace that shocked European football. In January 2017 alone, China's Super League clubs spent more on transfers than any league in the world, more than the Premier League, more than La Liga. The names arriving were not fringe players. Oscar, the Brazilian midfielder, left Chelsea for Shanghai SIPG in January 2017. His weekly wage, approximately £400,000 or $535,620, more than double what he earned at one of England's biggest clubs. Carlos Tevez, former Manchester City and Juventus striker, signed for Shanghai Shenhua. His deal made him the highest-paid footballer on earth at the time. Hulk, Axel Witsel, Obafemi Martins, Jackson Martinez each commanded fees and wages that would be extraordinary in any league. The Chinese Super League was briefly the most talked-about destination in world football. Attendances rose, television deals grew, the CSL looked, on paper, like it was joining the elite. The money arrived, the results did not. Here is the fundamental problem with buying world-class foreign players for your league. They cannot play for your national team. Oscar, Tevez and Hulk do not wear the red shirt when China plays a qualifier. The national team can only field Chinese citizens. China tried to work around this through naturalization. Players with Chinese heritage or long-term residency could apply for citizenship and become eligible. Nico Yenaris, a British-Chinese midfielder from Arsenal's youth system, became Lee K. He earned his first cap for China's national team in 2019. Several Brazilian players who had spent years in the CSL took Chinese citizenship. Elkeson became Ikezen, the first non-ethnic Chinese player ever to represent the national team. Others followed. The results were marginal. China still lost to Vietnam. China still failed to qualify. Naturalization adds individuals. It does not add a talent pipeline. The national team's real problem was never that it lacked a handful of good foreign origin players. It was that the domestic talent pool was too shallow to compete at Asia's top level. You can paper over that gap with transfers and passports for a few years. You cannot paper over it for long. That gap starts long before any transfer window opens. If you want to understand why China's national team keeps failing, stop looking at the transfer window. Look at the schoolyard. Football is a game of numbers. The more children playing seriously, the more talent rises to the top. Every elite player is drawn from a pool of millions who played, competed, and developed from a young age. China has 1.4 billion people. In 2019, China had approximately 50,000 registered youth football players. Japan, with less than 1/10 of China's population, had over 800,000. This is the real gap, not the quality of players at the top, the size of the base underneath them. The reason is structural. Chinese schools run on academic pressure. Physical education exists. Competitive football development does not. After-school sports programs are organized around examinations, not athletics. Parents directing children towards sport over study face cultural and economic pressure to do otherwise. Football academies require dedicated coaches, maintained pitches, and league structures where young players can compete consistently. China had almost none of this at scale. Money can buy a foreign striker. It cannot buy 15 years of youth football culture that was never built. The CSL era made the league look world-class. It made the national team's situation worse by comparison. Someone noticed, someone thought they had the solution. They had the money to try. In 2012, the Evergrande group had a plan. Evergrande was one of China's largest real estate developers. It had bought Guangzhou's football club and turned it into the most dominant team in Asia. Now it wanted to solve the grassroots problem directly. It built an academy. Not a small training center, a campus in Qingyuan, Guangdong province with 50 full-size pitches. It enrolled thousands of young players. It hired coaches from Spain, modeled on Barcelona's famous La Masia youth system. The goal was simple: manufacture Chinese talent at scale through sheer investment. For a few years, it looked like it might work. Guangzhou dominated the CSL. The academy produced players, but attendance records fell. Then, Evergrande collapsed. In 2021, the company revealed it carried over $300 billion in debt. The real estate empire that funded everything began to fall apart. Sponsorships dried up, salaries went unpaid, the academy deteriorated. Guangzhou FC, once the standard of Chinese football, was relegated from the top division. The academy still exists in some form. The ambition does not. China's most serious attempt to build a talent pipeline from the ground up lasted less than a decade. That is where the money story ends. China did not qualify for the 2026 World Cup. FIFA expanded the tournament to 48 teams this year. Asia received 8.5 spots, nearly double the previous allocation. The door opened wider than it ever had. China still didn't walk through it. Here is the honest answer to why. Football is not built in a transfer window. It is not built with a stadium. It is not built by nationalizing a Brazilian striker or hiring a world-famous coach. It is built in schoolyards, over decades, by millions of children who grow up playing, competing, and caring about the sport before they are old enough to get paid for it. China has money, but China does not yet have that. The gap is not about resources, it is about time. And time is the one thing money has never been able to buy. If you like this video, then please subscribe to the channel. It supports us a ton. See you in the next video.